we need to understand stress. So what is stress? Let's start from the beginning. And you can do this kind of research on your own if you like, but I'll give you the summary. Stress is essentially high cortisol levels. Okay, it's a neurochemical that goes through your body and it floods your central nervous system in such a way that other chemicals like serotonin and dopamine have nowhere to go. You can't release the good feelings because you're packed full of bad feelings. And cortisol levels can remain elevated for a long period of time. For example, if you just moved house, it might take a full year for the cortisol level to really come back down just from the move, because changing that much in your life is stressful, right? Or grieving over a loved one. It might have been 5 years since they passed, but you still have elevated cortisol levels because you haven't processed the grief properly, perhaps. And you keep compounding it with other stressful things in your life, right? And that's what often happens is somebody has a externally stressful event like moving, losing a job, losing a partner, and then they also behave in a way that causes more stress, so they never come back down. They're miles away from their baseline cortisol levels. They've been elevated for so long that that's the water they swim in. They don't know any different. And I spent a lot of my life like that, where I was so stressed I didn't know I was stressed. It had been so long, it was chronic stress. Bags under my eyes, man boobs, yelling at my computer every time it was slow to load. That was normal for me, right? It took me a long time to really realize like that's not normal. It was just normal for me. Stress manifests in lots of different ways. You can be irritable, agitated, worried, misery, hate, misanthropy, like hating people, finding people agitating, having a sense that you've got a string of bad luck, that you're overwhelmed by things sort of stacking up on you, or that life is unfair. Maybe you're paranoid about how unfair life is, like you're getting a worse deal than others are. You think maybe something supernatural's happening, you're being targeted. You'll be exhausted. You might have what you think is depression, but you're actually just burned out. Those are quite often confused and even misdiagnosed, I think. You're really busy. You're hardly ever present. You always think about the past or the future. You're always worried about what's coming next, not enjoying what is now. You're restless and bored. Got sleep problems, digestive problems, or you might have already been at this so long that you're having things like heart disease, stroke, dementia, the kind of longer term effects of chronic stress. But I think it's best summed up by Eckhart Tolle. He says, stress is being here when you want to be there. I can't imagine a simpler definition of stress than that, right? Like where you are is somewhere other than where you want to be. There is a gap between where you want to be and what it is, right? You're not the person you want to be someone else. You're not in the place you want to be somewhere else. You want to be doing something else, right? Do you want to have something else? As soon as you want anything more or different to what is, you enter into a state of stress, unless you can immediately fulfill that need. And most people can't. Or the things they want, the thing they're there that they're trying to get to, is no more satisfactory than where they are. They get there, they just want to be in another there. Becomes the new here, right? You see this with people making money all the time. If you can't be happy with 30 grand a year, you're not going to be happy with 300 grand a year or 3 million. Your mentality about not being happy here will go with you. It doesn't go away just because you get to the next destination. It's like a rainbow. It moves along as you move. You never catch up to the thing. Stress is a state of mind, not a state of your bank account. Stress is generally a reaction to things outside of your control, right? It's generally trying to control something that isn't quite going the way you want it to, or you just absolutely cannot control it and you're deluded for even trying. So you can be stressed about sort of trying to get that business deal. It feel like you've got it mostly under control, but it kind of depends on the other guy and your secretary got the notes wrong or whatever. You start to get stressed of these things that you can't control. Well, some of you get stressed about things that are obviously out of your control. The upcoming election results, global warming, the war in Israel, right? Things even with your best effort, working 24 hours a day, you could barely put a dent in them. Like trying to empty the ocean with a bucket, as one person once put it to me. So stress is always about this fixation on something outside of your control and wanting it to be something other than what it is. And then you get the physiological reactions to that wanting. And as I think I said earlier, I think of stress as the opposite of happiness. People think happiness is balanced out by sadness, I used to agree with Tim Ferriss. He said the opposite of happiness is to be bored. But I think boredom is just stress. I think it's a unnecessary word. We've already got a word for bored. It's stressed. It's being here when you want to be there. It's agitation of not being satisfied with what is. Whereas happiness, what is happiness? You don't want anything to change, isn't it? When you're happy, you want it exactly as it is. Like what is currently happening meets your standards, meets your needs, is enjoyable, is meaningful. You wouldn't change a thing. That's happiness. And stress is the opposite. You don't want anything to stay the same, or at least you definitely want something to change. There's no such thing as being stressed about something you're satisfied with. That weird concept we call happiness, one way to look at it is the absence of stress. And that our whole life is really this kind of fluctuation between stress and happiness, between wanting to be somewhere else and being okay with where you are, acceptance and intolerance, battling between the two. So coming back to the idea of self-love, or being kind to yourself, what you might even call the end result as happiness, is it's about trying to get to a place where you are cool with what is, including who you are, right here, right now, no changes required. As soon as a change of what is happening right now is required, you are entering into a state of stress. That gives you a sense of what being kind to yourself might look like. Now, there is probably an argument for a certain level of stress that is necessary. Like, if we just sat around going, you know what, everything's fine all the time. I mean, when are we going to go to the toilet? When are we going to eat, right? A certain amount of motivation to adjust or grow in some way. But I think the real problem when it becomes stress is when it's something we can't control. When whatever the growth or change is, we're asking more from ourselves than is currently possible. Even if it seems possible in our head, if it was, we wouldn't get stressed because we just do it. Right. So as soon as you want more from yourself, let's say you go do an exam and you get 97%. As soon as you think I should have got a 98%, you're entering into a state of stress. Now, if you go to the exam just thinking, oh, look, I'm just going to do my best on this exam with the knowledge I've got, and whatever happens, happens, that's still growth, but without stress. You're still pushing yourself to go and do something for your future and to, test yourself at the limits, but you're not asking more from yourself than you can actually deliver. Once you ask more from yourself or from life, you're into a state of stress, and there's really no benefit in that. All that does is undermine any happiness you might have now. It undermines any enjoyment of the process. And why would you want to stop enjoying the process? Isn't enjoying the process the most successful thing? If you always enjoy the process, how much growth are you going to do? If the process makes you miserable, how often are you going to give up and procrastinate and crash and relapse? People think that stress is helpful. I disagree entirely. Are you a nice guy or people pleaser who wishes they were more assertive, more honest, and better respected by others? Since 2013, I've been helping people just like you discover their integrity and apply it courageously to build deep and meaningful connections, get respected by others, and become the confident person you've always wanted to be. Imagine being able to speak your mind without worrying what other people will think or worrying that it's the right thing to say, and being able to assertively stand up for yourself and your loved ones. Imagine never feeling the need to apologize for who you are or what you want, and being able to live carefree without shame or the I'm not good enough story in your head. Imagine going to bed knowing that you courageously took every opportunity available to you and you've got no regrets because you always know what you should be doing in every situation. I'm so confident in my ability to help people like you unleash your highest level of self-worth that I give people a free coaching session to test what I'm doing. In this 1 hour session, we will uncover the biggest barrier to your confidence, whether it's an awareness problem, you don't know what you should be doing differently, or it's a courage problem, you know what you should be doing, but you find it too intimidating. I will guide you to make a breakthrough with your behavior to get through that barrier in a powerful way without feeling terrified and without destroying everything you love. I've had some people find this first session so powerful that I never hear from them again simply because they didn't need anything more after that. It launched them into the highest level of confidence that they've ever experienced. And if that's the result you get, I'm good with that. One client put it, This session was more valuable to me than 3 years of therapy combined. So if you're tired of trying to keep everybody happy, and you're sick of worrying what other people think of you, and you're concerned that your people pleasing and conflict avoidance is going to damage your relationships, then come and have a talk with me. Worst case scenario, you get to experience what it's like to talk with someone who actually understands what it's like to be you. I've lived the nice guy experience for decades. I know it inside and out. I know that pain. Case scenario, and very likely, you will have such a powerful insight into a behavioral change that you can make in the next 24 hours to significantly improve your confidence, relationships, and career. All I ask is that you be honest, open to change, and willing to try something new. Why wait another 10 years to discover confidence when you can do it today? Fill out the brief form below to apply for a trial coaching session. Do this quickly because there are limited spots each month, and then I'll get back to you to book in a time to talk.